Hello yogis, my name is Daniel Cumming, aka the Yogi Bunny. Welcome to part one of my Garudasana or Eagle Flow. So this month we've been focusing on Eagle pose. So if you haven't seen my introduction for this month's class, you can view it here. And you can also see part two after you've done this class here. So we'll get started. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring the backs of the hands together. And what I want you to do is draw the elbows towards the center. So you got a bit of pressure, you should feel it in the shoulders here. I want you to draw the tailbone down and back, lift through the chest. So first we're just gonna start taking little mini rotations. I want you to try to move from the top half of the body and isolate that bottom half by drawing that tailbone down, activating through the pelvis. So these elbows are gonna wanna creep out, so I want you to draw them in towards the center and just warm up, relax through the shoulders a little bit, rotating round and round. Good, and then we're gonna reverse that hand grip. So the other hand comes on top. We're gonna draw everything back in and then reverse that rotation. So going round and round with circles again, maybe starting to get a little bit bigger, as if you're drawing a circle with the hands. Starting to sync the breath with the movement, drawing that breath in and out the nostrils. Good. And this is going to be your first go-to throughout the practice for Eagle if you can't actually do Eagle yet. So that's your first progression. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start with this little flow that we've been doing throughout this and the next class. So I like to imagine that you're opening up curtains and opening them up wide. So we cross one arm in front, lift up. Each time we flow forward, we're gonna cross the other in front. Now, I want you to start lifting the shoulders up around the ears, a nice opening for the shoulders, and start to sync that breath with the movement. So as we inhale, lift the arms, and as we exhale, sweep it down. Good. Good, and we're gonna come into a seated twist. So we'll inhale the arms up, and then as we exhale, that left hand comes to the right knee. That right hand comes in behind, we lift the crown of the head, stacking it above the base of the body, and then settling in, breathing back into that belly. Good. Keeping that left hand where it is, we'll take our right arm up, and then exhale, crossing it over the knees. Now, you want to try to stack the elbows on top of each other. We're going to move towards Garudasana arms, so eagle arms. Now, if you can't do this, the hands are going to come around the forearm, eventually fingers towards the thumb, and then eventually here. Now, if you can't get here and you get stuck somewhere around there, that's perfectly fine. Draw this in first, and then you can use that exercise I gave you in the introductory to help get that positioning. So, taking Garudasana arms, we're going to inhale, draw everything up, so elbows to the ceiling, lift the chest, draw the tailbone down and back at the same time, and then exhale, draw everything in towards center. Inhale, lift. Exhale, draw it in. Good, one more time. Inhale, lift, and as you exhale, releasing the arms, taking that closed curtain reverse flow of the arms. So sweeping up and around in that reverse fashion, still focusing on getting the shoulders up and around the ears. Good, next inhale coming up, hands overhead, and then we'll come to the other side of the seated twist. So as you exhale, that right hand comes to the left knee, left hand in behind the body, relax through the shoulders, lift the crown of the head up, and look gently over that left shoulder. Breathing into that belly. Next inhale, we lift that left hand up, exhale, crossing it over. Good, reach, and then finding that bind either with the hand all the way around. You might find one side's a bit trickier than the other, one's a bit easier, perfectly normal. And either finding that full eagle arm bind or one of those variations. Inhale, lifting, and then exhale, drawing it all down towards the center. Inhale, lifting up nice and high. Exhale, drawing it all in. Inhale, lift. Take both feet out, and then exhale, sweep around. We're going to inhale, lift and lift the feet, and then exhale, flowing back. So it's a little bit of a lift with the feet each time we inhale up and cross, and then exhale down. Inhale, lift, exhale down. So using a bit of momentum, but progressing towards Navasana as well. And down. Last one. Inhale, lift. You can take the hands in behind these thighs, just a little bit of a gentle lift. And then we're gonna cross over the legs. We're gonna bring our hands down and come to all fours. So shuffle the hips back a little bit so the wrists are stacked beneath the shoulders, knees beneath the hips. We're going to press into the fingertips more than the wrists and the rest of the hand. And then get a little bit of a cave in the chest so we're opening up the back of the body. I want you to take an inhale here, and then as you exhale, we're going to lower onto our belly and take Sphinx pose. So drawing the elbows in, lowering down nice and slow. Imagine pressing the earth away from you. Take your time. We're going to draw the elbows in, palms down. Forearms down, and as we draw the elbows in towards the side ribs, we lift that chest up. Taking a couple of breaths here. And what we're going to do is start to curl that tailbone under and press the hips down into the mat, and you'll start to see we start to peel away from that mat a little bit more. Squeeze a little bit through the glutes, and you'll start to feel a little bit more of a lift up. And then open up in behind the shoulder blades a bit. Good. We'll exhale back down. We're going to take a locust now, so drawing the palms by your side. As we inhale, we'll lift the chest, lift the thighs. Squeeze in between the shoulder blades a little bit to help get that lift in the chest. Squeeze the glutes to help get the lift in the legs. Now the legs press together just gently, close by each other, pressing the feet back, and then tucking the chin, pressing the crown of the head forward. Good. Next inhale, we're going to take a bit of a skydiver variation, lifting the palms. Inhale, lift. And then exhale, just completely fold in either your forehead or the cheeks of the hands. And just taking a couple of breaths here. We're going to frame the chest with the hands. Draw the elbows in slightly, tuck the toes. As we inhale, lift up, draw the belly up. And then as we exhale, we'll come down into a child's pose. So extending the hands out in front, relaxing, drawing the hips down towards the heels. Good, we'll inhale, lift up onto all fours. And as we exhale, we're gonna press up and back into our first downward dog. So pressing through the fingers, relaxing, opening through the shoulders, drawing the thighs back. So the chest is coming in underneath towards those thighs. Good. As we inhale now, we're going to draw the knees down, and that chest is going to come forward into a little bit of a lift and open through the back. And then as we exhale, we'll come back into a downward dog position. So pressing back. Now we can keep this flow, lowering the knees, lowering that belly towards the ground as we lift that chest. And then exhale back into our downward dog position. Or you can begin to take a high plank, so pressing through the balls of the feet. The heels are drawing back. We're lifting the hips, activating through the glutes, and getting a bit of that drawing forward motion, pressing through the fingertips. Exhale back into your downward dog. Good. We're going to bring the feet a little bit closer together. We're going to inhale the right foot up in behind the body into three-legged dog. Draw that right hip down a little bit. And we're going to come into a low lunge. So that right foot draws forward. That left knee lowers down. Draw everything up through the center. Lift up. And then exhale, relax the arms. We're going to take that little prana vinyasa flow with the arms. So as you cross one in front of the other, just noticing which one it is, and then switching on the next. Really starting to open up through the shoulders. Now, it can throw you off your balance a little bit, so try to draw the thighs towards each other. Good. And then as we exhale, we're going to come into a standing splits pose. So the left foot draws up as that right foot presses down. We lift that left heel, the left thigh up towards the sky, relaxing the head and neck. You can take a block if you need it for the hands. And if it is a bit much, you can lower that back down and begin to flow back into it, just very gently, either holding this position here in standing splits or just flowing forward, lowering back into that low lunge, finding it again, and then eventually meeting back in that low lunge position. We're going to cross that right knee underneath our body over that left knee. We're going to sink back into a child's pose position here, so drawing everything backwards, sinking in. Now, if this doesn't feel nice for the knees or the hips for whatever reason, you can come into a regular child's pose. But this is preparing the legs for our eagle pose. Taking a couple of breaths here. Good, slowly walking the hands forward. Releasing that right leg back in behind. Take a breath in. And then exhale, draw that right knee underneath the body. Good, inhale it back. And then we'll lower that right knee down. Good, we'll take an inhale, lift the chest, draw it through the hands. Exhale, up and back into your downward dog again. Just taking a little flow forward, either through that knee lower, chest raise, or just coming forward into that high plank position again. And then exhaling back. Good, this time we're going to take the opposite foot up we took last time. So taking that left foot up in behind, toes facing down, and then exhale that left foot in between the hands. Lower that right knee this time in that low lunge. Lifting through center, activate everything, and then exhale, relax a bit. And just get that flow, so it's just gripping into center with the legs, the feet. That back foot can either be flat or tucked. If you want to challenge yourself, you can close the eyes as you flow. It should start to feel really nice, especially if you've done this class a few times now. This opening, this counter to eagle is perfect. And eventually when you're ready, you can come into that standing split. So the hands come down. We lift that right foot up as we press down through that left heel. If you find yourself falling out to the side, press into the big toe of that left foot. Again, you might find an easier side or a trickier side. And just sticking with it. If you do need to come out for a moment, you can lower that right knee down, step back a little bit, and find your way in. Otherwise, just holding here. Being with the pose, or the little wobbles, or the shakes, or the little adjustments. Using that breath all the way through. Maybe even a little smile, a little grin. We all love standing splits. And then eventually lowering that right knee down. Crossing that left in front. So it's over. So take your time. It doesn't have to be far across or much of a bind. Sinking down. It's just to get in that general direction. You don't have to be still here. You can just move gently around a little bit to loosen it off. Good, and we're gonna start to release. That left foot is gonna press in behind as we lift the chest, press that foot. Exhale, curl it under, just a little bit of a tiger curl. Now lifting it back. And then exhale, lowering it down. We're gonna lower down onto our belly again now. So drawing the elbows in, hovering that chest, those shoulders above the wrists, lowering down nice and slow. You can roll down that hip, belly, chest when your elbows reach same height as the shoulders. We're just gonna come into a nice slow cobra now. So taking the hands a little bit wider, press into the fingertips, lift behind the scruff of the neck. Inhale, roll up. Exhale, nice and slow, rolling down. We're going to do this 2 more times. So as you inhale, lift that chest up, that head rolls up, and then we slow it down by squeezing the glutes on the way down. On the third, you can press the whole hand down on each one. Just focus on the fingertips more than the wrists. We don't want to compress in the nerves too much there on the wrists. Rolling it down, finding a way to downward dog. So inhale, lift, tuck the toes, exhale, up and back, downward dog. Have a little bit of a pedal out with the feet. Just notice any differences you feel already. What we're going to do now is slowly walk the feet all the way up to meet the hands. Good, so have the feet pretty close together here. We're going to bend through the knees quite a bit. What we're going to do is we're going to lift halfway first. So inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Press through the heels. Either roll up the body nice and slow, or you can reverse swan dive all the way up. Good, we're going to come into Utkatasana, chair pose. So what I want you to do is, usually I would do this with the legs a little bit further apart, but because we're going to move towards Garudasana today, what I want you to do first as we begin to sink down is inwardly rotate the legs a little bit. So we've got this drawing in of the thighs, almost like you're trying to press something through in between the legs. Inhale, lift, and then exhale, sit into that. Relax through the shoulders a little bit, draw everything up, get this squeezing together. Good, you can soften and release. Keep that little bit of inward rotation. We're going to move into Garudasana legs. So lift that right foot up, keep that little bit of inward rotation, draw the hips back a bit. So we have this almost sitting back in a chair motion and then crossing over the legs. Good, imagine this vine wrapping around of that right leg. You don't have to get it too far. Just make sure that the hips are squared. So if you need to check, fingers facing the front. And then just focusing on the legs. So it's class, really just getting a hang of it, focusing on the legs first. You can gradually release, maybe extending that right foot out a little bit before you lower down. Good, coming into the other side. So draw that tailbone back, a little bit of inward rotation with the legs. Lift and then cross over that left foot over the right this time. So it's just getting used to that drawing back. Really helps to get that binding of the legs. You can do what you want with the arms. Maybe don't do that. Focus on the legs. Good. And it's all about getting the strength, and eventually it does get further and further. It's a never-ending process. That's the fun of it. Good. And we're just going to bend through the knees. Take a little flow, this closed curtain flow. I'm just going to take a little mini Vinyasa flow before we come into the other side of that. So drawing everything backwards, so the hips back, thighs back, folding forward with the chest. Relax the head and neck here. So if you can't reach the ground with your hands, take a block. If you're about here, just make sure that you haven't got any too much tension in that lower back. So drawing the hips back at the same time. We're going to step both feet back into a high plank position. And then you can either just come to the knees, flow with me down through a cobra, or you can just take child's pose, depending on what you're feeling for. And making your way back to downward dog, not rushing it. Be mindful of every little movement on the way there as we meet back here. Good, we can walk our feet back to the hands again. Roll up halfway, thighs back, brush the shins, chest up. Exhale, fold, press and lift. All the way up. Exhale, hands down through the chest. Tadasana. And we are going to move into full eagle now. So we're going to start with that right leg. So what we're going to do first, though, is we're going to bind the arm. So the right arm is going to end up coming underneath the left. Now, how we do this is this whole flow we've been doing throughout the class ends up finding our way to eagle. And it should start to use that momentum, that flow. Eventually, that right arm binds underneath the left. Draw it all in, or as best you can. Once you've got it, That right foot is going to lift. Draw that tailbone back a little bit, hips back. Find your eagle. Now, if this is one of your first times doing it or you're still very new to it, you can focus on the legs, focus on the arms. You can inhale, lift, take a bit of pressure off that leg. You can lower down a little bit, getting the knees towards the elbows, lowering down. If you really want to test your balance, you can do it with the eyes closed, a little wobbles. If you fall out, you can just come back in. Good. And we want to get those few little wobbles, those shakes, and eventually coming out. Flowing a little bit with the arms. And just take a little bit of a shoulder opener, upper, before we come into that other side of eagle. So drawing the fingertips, the fingers interlacing them, drawing that chest up. Relax through the shoulders a bit. Good, soften, relax. Try to have the arms pretty floppy. So the drive comes from the legs, the feet up through the body. So start that little flow of the arms. I'm going for the opposite. So eventually that left arm is going to bind around the right this time. And then that left foot is going to lift. So extending, drawing the hips back, finding that bind with the legs. And if you do fall out, you can come back in. Try to relax through the shoulders a bit more in eagle here. Good. Not far off being done. So taking your last little, maybe challenging versions, eyes closed or getting a bit lower, and then flow it out. We are done with standing postures in this flow. So maybe inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. Good, eventually coming down, swan diving, and then finding that forward fold again. Really open and relax through the shoulders. See some little mini circles around. And eventually placing the hands down, stepping both feet back, lowering onto the knees and just taking a little bit of a child's pose. Just pausing here for a breath or two. Extending those arms out in front, otherwise you can just have your arms by your side. Good. We're just going to take a little lizard pose here to start to stretch out. So we'll start with the left foot up towards that left hand. So opening up through that left hip, that left knee, drawing everything forward and just softening in a little bit here. If there's a bit much on that right knee, you can extend that right knee back a little bit, so just on the top of it rather than on the actual joint of the knee. Making sure that left foot is planted down, that left knee is opening. Okay. We'll step that left knee back, extend that leg out in behind, take a breath in, and then exhale, lowering it down. Good. We'll do the same with that right. So inhale it back, and then exhale it forward, coming into that lizard pose. So taking that right knee out to the side a little bit, and beginning to open up. So if this is a bit much on the hip for whatever reason, you can come into lizard pose on your back to a reclined lizard with a strap. Or just happy baby is basically two lizards on your back. So in that little introductory video, I gave these options, so I'm just assuming that you've seen it, and if you haven't, give it a watch. Just save a bit of time. Send that right foot in behind. Exhale, lower it down. Then we'll shuffle over to one side. Part we've all been waiting for. Beginning to lower onto our back. So this is the happy baby. So it's like two lizard poses. So we go middle finger, pointer finger, around the big toes, rolling onto our back, and then lifting both feet up into the air. So draw the right knees down towards the armpits. The heels are pressing up towards the ceiling, and we're trying to stack the heels above the knees just as much as we can. So it's that little balancing act of finding that good position, because everyone's hips are different as well. So just see how it feels. But I like to imagine that you have something resting on your foot, and if it wouldn't be able to stay there, you probably don't have it parallel. So if you've got a friend that can maybe place a plate on your feet, that's a good balance, but otherwise, just guessing your best at it. Good. We'll lower that left foot down, lift our right foot up towards the ceiling. We can take a strap here. Otherwise, just a gentle hamstring stretch. So taking that right under thigh. And the right leg doesn't need to be straight at all. We want to ground that tailbone down, that hip down as much as possible. So it's just a gentle drawing towards you. And eventually bending that right knee, drawing it towards the chest a little bit more and extending that left leg out. Good, softening through the shoulders a bit, resting the entire body down. We're going to come into a reclined pigeon, so that right ankle is going to come to the left thigh. Thread our arms underneath that left thigh, drawing that left knee towards it, a little pressing away as we lower the shoulders and head down. Good. Keeping hold of that left thigh. We're going to place that right foot down and just lift that left foot up towards the ceiling. So pressing through that left heel, drawing the tailbone and the hips down a little bit. Doesn't need to be straight leg. You can take that strap if you have it. If you're not sure how to do it with the strap, just see that instructional video. And bringing this thigh towards you gently. Just a bit of a stretch through the hamstrings here. We're going to do much more stretching in the next video. But for now, it's just a quick little introduction. That left knee draws towards you, that right foot presses away. You can always make a few tiny little rotations with that left hip. And eventually bringing that left ankle to the right thigh, threading the arms through, finding our reclined pigeon pose. So make sure the head and neck relax. So the head should be on the ground. If you can't put it on the ground, make sure you place something underneath the head. Good, and then very slowly releasing, stretching out a little bit. You can inhale, arms up overhead, stretching out through the legs. as you exhale, draw the knees up just above the belly, hands towards the knees, little mini circles revolving around and around, massaging that lower back into the mat and reversing the direction. And then just a few little gentle twists to finish off so that each foot can come to the edge of the mat and then knees going to fall into the center. Shoulders relax and just very gentle little windscreen wiper motions side to side with the knees getting out those last little cracks or last little rotations. Remember the knees don't need to come all the way down to the floor, and just very gently side to side. And then just preparing yourself for Shavasana. So extending both legs out. Have your arms by your side, palms face up if you like. And just starting to notice that breathing. That natural expansion of the belly as it fills full up of air. Breathing more into the belly than the chest throughout your entire practice or life, hopefully. Just settling in here, and just staying in Shavasana for at least a few minutes, maybe a good 5 to 7 to 10 or however long, but I always recommend at least 5 minutes. So just staying here, focusing on the breath, softening, relaxing. Whenever you're ready, making your way out. And continuing with your day after a few minutes of Shavasana. See you next time, Yogi. Namaste.